right? So yeah, good morning everyone. Welcome to yet another online tutorial on microwaves and antennas. So today we'll be discussing about microwave vacuum tube devices, that is reflex klystron oscillator. So this is one of the methods for generating microwave frequency. As I told, the normal lump circuit elements or normal vacuum tube devices cannot be used to produce a microwave frequency. So this is actually what a reflex klystron is, a microwave vacuum tube device which can be used to generate microwave frequency. So it can produce, right? So this is the key of what to say, specifications, right? So whatever I mentioned here, these are the key specifications. So my reflex klystron can produce frequency ranging from 2 to 200 gigahertz, 2 gigahertz to 200 gigahertz. So in fact, in your lab, there is a reflex klystron, right? There is a microwave test bench wherein reflex klystron will be producing microwave frequency, and you will be transmitting using a transmission line. And at the end, you will be observing what is the guided wavelength, voltage standing wave ratio, reflection coefficient, and all those steps, right? So that reflex klystron, it produces a frequency somewhere around 9.45, right? So we used to call the operating frequency or center frequency of a reflex klystron as a resonant frequency. There is a reason why, right? I'll tell that, right? So then it can give up to a bandwidth of plus or minus 30 megahertz. So when I say bandwidth, right? So you can electronically tune a reflex klystron, right? Which means, so when you vary the repeller voltage, say for a range of plus or minus 10 volt, you can get up to actually what frequency variation up to plus or minus 30 hertz, right? Around say center frequency, plus or minus 30 hertz around center frequency. So I know you won't be able to appreciate it now, but later on when you see what is the construction of reflex klystron and how it works, you will be able to appreciate it. And it can give a power output from 10 milliwatts to 2.5 watts. So 2.5 watts will be the maximum power which klystron can give, right? So klystron, it is not used in actually what many other power extensive applications. So the main applications of klystron are actually what they are widely used in microwave sources, in labs, and in microwave transmitters, which requires less power, right? So anyone remember which is a microwave frequency generator used in your microwave oven? It's actually magnetron, right? It's a magnetron. So this is a reflex klystron. So now we do have actually what very much advancement in microwave solid state physics, right? So we have solid state devices which can operate at microwave frequency, but it's not a part of your syllabus. You'll have to study only this, right? Reflex klystron oscillator. It is a microwave vacuum tube device, right? It's an oscillator, right? So so why do we need a separate vacuum tube device to operate at microwave frequency, right? So we have actually what conventional electronic vacuum tubes, such as actually what triodes, tetrodes, pentodes, right? All those stuffs are there. You might have studied in smaller classes. Those conventional vacuum tube devices fail to operate at around in this microwave frequency. So by the time the operation frequency reaches 1 gigahertz, right? So they will start behaving abnormally, right? So there are reasons. So the reasons are, right, the inter-electrode capacitance will come into picture. For instance, you will have actually what cathode will be there, and accelerating grid will be there, right? So cathode will be producing electron beam, and accelerating grid is supposed to accelerate that, and there should be a potential difference between those two, right? But what happens is, in normal vacuum tube devices like triodes, tetrodes, or pentodes, right, this inter-electrode capacitance, for instance, grid to cathode capacitance, right, all those will come into picture. So what happens is, grid to cathode capacitive reactance reduces with frequency. So it will reduce with frequency, which means capacitive reactance is reducing. So what happens is, beyond almost 100 megahertz, almost, right, it acts, conventional diodes act as a short circuit if the frequency is above 100 megahertz. That is one issue, right? And one more problem is actually what lead inductance. Lead inductance, for even if it is cathode, anode, or whatever, we'll have to use metallic, say, strips or metallic wires as lead, right? So that we have to give either a potential, or we have to take the power out, or whatever, right? So that at very high frequency, those that lead inductance also will come into picture, right? And that lead inductance, what it will act in parallel with actually what inter-electrode capacitance. So it will act as actually what LC stray elements, right? Stray unwanted LC in the circuit, right? And it will actually what it will raise the frequency limit and it will reduce the efficiency, right? You don't have to dig much deeper into it. So I would like to start with a submission, right? I will be confining our discussion only to what exactly required by our syllabus, right? I won't be going beyond that. So, but when later on you have this microwave test bench experiment in analog communication, advanced communication lab, at that time maybe a little bit in detail I'll tell. Now I'll confine only to, right, confine the discussion only to whatever is there in our syllabus. So you should remember these three things: at very high frequencies, inter-electrode capacitance, lead inductance, and transit time effects. We already have seen when we study actually what transmission line, what is transit time effect. So these things will come into picture. So conventional vacuum tube diodes fail to operate on 1 gigahertz. So it can be a question, right? Conventional vacuum tube device fail to operate around 1 gig around and above 1 gigahertz. Why? Right. So the answer is this. Right. And one thing which I forgot to tell is, right. So this particular topic, right. For that, the reference textbook is Microwave Engineering by Annapurna Das and Shishir K Das, second edition. That is the McGraw-Hill company second edition. Right. I don't have a soft copy of this particular textbook, so I couldn't make it available in Canvas. But what I've done is, whatever materials, whatever figures and all those steps I have put in this particular slide, I have scanned and replicated from that textbook, right? So you can use this as a material. I have put it as a bulleted points, but I've covered almost everything what is exactly required for your syllabus, right? So first, what we have seen, why conventional vacuum tube device failed to operate at 1 gigahertz, right? So then next, we in further sections, what we'll do is I'll just change this to a pen, right? Right. In further section, we'll be study the structure or construction of reflex klystron, right? Or construction of reflex klystron. Then we'll study about working principle, right? We'll study about working principle of reflex klystron, right? Then we'll study about different modes, right? Different modes of operation, different modes of operation, right? And also I'll teach you what is mode curve, right? And we don't have to do any derivation or any other stuff. It's actually qualitative treatment, right? So but at the end I'll give you the governing equations, right? So when I say mode, when I'll tell you what is mode curve, I'll tell you as, right, the for higher order modes, power output will be less, bandwidth will be more, all those steps I'll tell, right? But we don't have any derivation. It's a qualitative treatment. But to be on the safer side, right, I'll give the governing equations at the end, right? I'll give the governing equations at the end. There is no derivation. I won't be doing any derivation. That is beyond the scope of our syllabus, right? But the governing equations I'll give at the end. So that is what we are going to see. So initially we'll see what actually is a klystron, how it is constructed. Then we'll study about its working principle. Then I'll tell you about, right, during the working, while I'm explaining working principle, I'll tell you what is velocity modulation, what is bunching, right? What are different modes and all those steps. Then we'll conclude with the governing equation. So this topic is also included for our first internal, right? So structure or construction of a reflex klystron, right? It's very, very simple, right? Maybe you.
Sir, you're not audible, sir.
Yeah, now am I audible? Sorry, I got muted. I don't know how. Maybe like now am I audible, Elvin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, can anyone speak?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, uh, repeat.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, fine, great. So I'll move on. Right. So it has a cathode. Right. So cathode, it acts as an actually, a cathode will have an electron gun. Right. So that can uh, produce electron beams. That can produce electron beams. So for instance, what I'll do is I'll just take a laser pointer. Right. So this is a cathode. Right. It can produce actually what electron beam. Right. And that electron beam will have to be right accelerated towards this, right? So for that we are using an accelerator grid. You can see this accelerating grid is kept at a slightly higher positive potential compared to this cathode, so that it can attract electrons or accelerate electrons produced by this cathode, right? And normally for in vacuum tube devices, what we'll have is cathode and anode. So instead of anode here, we have a repeller. You can see a repeller plate, right? That is given a much higher negative potential compared to cathode, right? So normally we used to have anode. That anode will be given a positive potential, so that actually what this electron beam will constitute a current, right? But in this case, instead of anode, we have a repeller. As the name suggests, it is meant to repel back the electron beam which is arriving here, which is entering this repeller space, right? So it is given a very, it's given a higher negative potential compared to cathode, right? So this repeller voltage is what you will adjust in your lab. You will adjust the repeller voltage to get the output. So we'll see when you study how it works. Everything will be clear. So cathode is there, accelerating grid is there, and there is a repeller plate which is given a higher negative potential. And this repeller is actually what meant to repel back the electrons which is arriving here, right? And there is some structure here, right? So this is actually what called this A to B. This is called actually what grid gap, right? Maybe the dimension of this we represent using small d, right? Grid gap. And there is a re-entrant resonant cavity. You can see it's something like a continuous actually what metallic toroid or whatever, right? It's like yeah, a metallic um, resonant cavity, right? So maybe I can explain it in a slightly different way, right? So how you can see this is, right, this resonant cavity you can visualize as, suppose, right, you can see the structure, right? It's just a cross section, right? So it's like a wire and a capacitor. So it's like actually what, there is a wire, right, and a capacitor. So this wire will act as an inductance, and this capacitor, it will act as a capacitor. So when there is a loop, right, when a current is flowing through the loop, there will be magnetic field, right? So that magnetic field is given by actually what, your right hand thumb rule or whatever. So if the current is flowing in this direction, magnetic field will be actually what, out of the board, and current is flowing opposite, magnetic field will be into the board. So there will be magnetic field, and as there is a capacitor, there will be electric field. That electric field will be either upwards or downwards depending upon actually what, the direction of current flow, right? Depending upon the direction of current flow, the electric field will be upwards or downwards. So you can see this resonant cavity is nothing but what, it is a continuum of such, right? So many such this LCs, right, arranged one after the other. So it will be like a Medu Vada or something like that, right? Maybe that is something I can tell, right? As there will be a hole in between. So and right, so this LCs, Medu Vada made of this, say this LCs, right? So maybe it's actually what, if there is an axis and if you rotate it, right, so you'll get a figure of revolution. That will be the re-entrant resonant cavity. So this, it acts as an actually what, LC tank circuit. So depending upon the value of L and C, so here depending upon the structure, right, maybe the diameter and the material used and all those steps, right, and depending upon the value of L and C, it will resonate at some particular frequency, right? So this resonance frequency can be actually what, center frequency or resonance frequency can be changed from say 2 to 200 gigahertz. But right, in the klystron which is used in our lab, the resonance frequency is said to be equal to 9.45 gigahertz, right? So and maybe there will be some short circuit planger and all those stuffs available, and center frequency can be tuned a little bit for a given klystron. So depending upon the construction, right? You can set the center frequency from 2 to 200 gigahertz, right? So it is actually what a resonant cavity, and this part is actually called this A to B. This part is called the grid gap, right? Grid gap. So this is our active area, right? This is our active region. So like any say oscillator, right? So any oscillator should need a positive feedback, right? Positive feedback. So how any oscillator will work? So initially when we won't give any input as such, right? Any sinusoidal input as such. Oscillator will produce sinusoidal input on its own. So how it can give sinusoidal output? Why? Because initially noise will be there, right? So maybe thermal noise. When you give the DC power supply, thermal noise will be there, and depending upon this LC value, or in this case, depending upon the structure of this resonant cavity, right, that thermal noise will resonate at this particular resonance frequency. In the case of the Klystron in our lab, it will resonate at 9.4545 gigahertz, right? If it is something else, it will resonate at that particular frequency. So that will constitute actually what a electromagnetic field here, wherein because of this particular structure, this, as I told, L and C structure, the electric field produced will either be upwards or downwards, right? So why? Because it's this structure, right? L and C. The electric field produced either will be actually what, upwards or downwards. So what we'll assume is, in our further discussions, whenever we do have a positive half cycle of this resonant wave, right, when we have a positive half cycle, electric field will be, we'll assume electric field will be directed downwards, and for negative half cycle, we'll assume the electric field will be directed upward, right? So please do keep that in mind, right? So for positive half cycle, we'll assume electric field. So this, let us assume the structure is made in such a way that during positive half cycle of the noise which is built, right, the resulting electric field due to this actually what, this noise which is built, that will be downwards during positive half cycle, and it will be upward during negative half cycle, right? So this is the structure. So we have a cathode, accelerating grid, a repeller, and a re-entrant resonant cavity, right? And so what happens is this here is where we are taking the output, right? A magnetic coupled output through a coaxial cable. So this is our transmission line. So this is our generator, and from the generator we'll be connecting a transmission line to take the power output, right? So this coaxial cable is what is used here, right? So from this, either we can give to another microwave network, or we can give to antenna or whatever, right? So or else if we want, we can use a waveguide and take it to some other point, whatever, it's possible, right? So this is the structure. So this is the structure of reflex klystron. So I'll repeat once again. It has a cathode, there is an accelerating grid, and a repeller, right? And this accelerating grid is kept at a slightly higher positive potential compared to the cathode, right? And repeller is kept at very higher negative potential. At it is actually what, more negative value than cathode voltage, right? Then there is a re-entrant resonant cavity. It is actually what, right? I've given the explanations here. It actually what, it will resonate at some particular frequency, and the output is taken using a magnetic coupling loop using a coaxial cable, right? That is it. That is the structure, right? So now we have to study how this works, right? The working principle, it is very simple, right? Working principle, it is very simple, right? Again, I'll take laser pointer. So what happens is, I'll tell you the working principle. So this cathode will produce electron beam. That electron beam will be accelerated by this accelerating grid, and it will be moving towards actually what, the repeller. So as it enters the repeller space, what happens? This repeller is given a higher negative potential. So what will happen is, these electrons will be returning back. So that returning back of electron, that provides the positive feedback in this case, right? So in order to provide positive feedback, we do have this repeller. So this electron beam will return back, right? So now how it can produce a sustained oscillation? I told initially the noise will build up, and noise will sustain at actually what, it will sustain at the say resonant frequency, right? But it should be say somehow amplified, it should be given a positive feedback, then only you will get a sustained oscillation. That positive feedback is given by this particular mechanism, right? So this electron beam will enter the repeller space and it will be repelled back. So but by simply repelling back, and from how electron beam can actually transfer energy to an electromagnetic wave, that is a question, right? So for that we have two techniques. One is actually called velocity modulation, right? And then after velocity modulation, these initially the electron beams which is entering the repeller space should be velocity modulated. I'll tell you what is velocity modulation. And these velocity modulated electrons should be returning back to this grid gap, right, at some specific time, so that, right, the kinetic energy of the electron will be transferred to what, electromagnetic energy. That is what is the key idea, right? So now we'll see it in detail. So for that I'll be using this particular diagram, right, to explain the working principle in detail, right? So I'll take a pen again, right? So again we have a cathode, right? So there is an electron gun which will produce actually what, electron beams, right? And a cathode, and the accelerating grid, you can see it is kept at a slightly higher positive potential compared to actually what, the cathode, right? So these electron beam which is produced, right, these electron beams which is produced, what will happen is they'll travel towards the repeller. So you can see this, right? So here I told in the resonant cavity there will be noise buildup, and that noise will sustain at actually what, the resonant frequency. If the time period of that resonant frequency, if it is actually what, t, there will be a time varying electromagnetic field within this grid gap, right? There will be a time varying electromagnetic field within this grid gap. So what happens is, in order to explain what is velocity modulation, right, and how it happens and all those steps, I just want you to consider three electrons, right? For a reference, we'll consider three electrons: electron A, right, electron B, and electron C. So these electron A, B, and C, they are actually what, produced at different time instants. I'll tell what is electron A. This electron A is nothing but what, the electron which passes the grid gap when there is a positive peak, right? So I'll repeat, this electron A, you can assume it is an electron which passes the grid gap when there is positive peak of this electromagnetic noise, right? And electron B, it is that electron, we'll call it actually what, electron B will be a reference electron. Why? Because this is the electron which passes the grid gap when there is no field present, or when there is a null, or when there is actually what, zero potential, right? And electron C, right, this electron C is the electron which passes the grid gap, right? This is a grid gap, you can see this is a grid gap. So which passes the grid gap when there is actually what, a negative peak, right? I told when there is a positive peak, electric field will be directed downwards. This is the direction of electric field, right? And you can see electron is moving upwards, right? Electron is moving upwards. So what will happen to this electron? There is when you place an electron in electric field, what will happen? There is an electric field in this direction, and if you place an electron here, so I hope you remember I had asked a question in prerequisite quiz, right? What will happen to an electron placed in an electric field, right? So what will happen to this? If I am placing a free electron in an electric field, in which direction this electron will accelerate? Towards right, towards left? Please unmute and tell someone. Maybe I should ask Kaveshri. If there is an
Yes.
in which direction electron will move? In the direction of electric field or opposite to the direction of electric field?
Opposite.
Opposite to the direction of electric field, of course, right? Why? Because electric field lines are directed from positive to negative charge, or higher potential to lower potential. It is actually what, negative gradient of potential. Suppose if you keep a positive charge here, it will move along the direction of electric field. If it is a negative charge, that is electron, it will move opposite, right? It will move opposite to the, so it will be accelerated opposite to the electric field. Now you can see an electron is traveling opposite to an electric, right? So what will happen when electron is traveling opposite to an electric field? It will be accelerated. So this electron A, right, will be accelerated. Why? Because during positive peak, there is an electric field in downward direction. So because of that, electron A will be accelerated, which means it can move actually what more into this repeller space, even though this repeller is negative in charge, right? As it is accelerated, it can move more into this repeller space. Whereas electron B, right? Electron B, suppose it was moving with some constant velocity, maybe the drift velocity, whatever, right? So as it reaches here, it is not encountering any field as such, right? So field is 0 here, so it will not be affected. So it will travel with the same velocity, maybe if it is the drift velocity or average velocity, right? But whereas electron, so this electron A will be accelerated, electron B, no change, right? No change, right? But electron C, you can see it is passing the grid space when there is a negative peak. Negative peak means electric field will be upward direction. So electric field is upward in this case, right? Electric field is upward and electron is also moving upward. So what will happen? This electron will be decelerated, right? Electron C will be decelerated, right? So electron A will be accelerated so that it can move more into the repeller space. Electron B will not be affected, so that, right? And electron C will be decelerated, so it can't, its velocity is reduced, so it can't move much, right? So that is the case. Now what we can do, so this is actually called velocity modulation. So this velocity modulation of electrons is shown here, right? So when electron is accelerated opposite, right, electron is moving opposite to the direction of electric field, it will be accelerated. Electron is moving in the direction of electric field, it will be decelerated. And if it is electron is moving in no electric field, it will neither be accelerated nor decelerated. This is actually called velocity modulation. This is the first step, right? This velocity modulation is done by our, right, required frequency which resonates at the required noise which resonates at actually what the resonant frequency of RF this cavity, right? So velocity modulation happens. So initially velocity modulation is happening, velocity modulation. Then what happens is, by adjusting this repeller voltage, you can see this electron A, B and C, these are I just told them, right, I've taken samples. In fact, actually what there will be electrons in between also, right? Electrons in between also, which means if you can see this is time axis, right? I have shown it as time axis, right, at different times, right? So there will be other electrons also which passes the grid gap at other instances. They will be either accelerated or decelerated. So what will happen is, because of this velocity modulation, there will be, right, debunging of electrons, right? There will be debunging of electrons, right? It was a bunch of electrons initially, right? They were moving together, but what happens is, right, if this is A's, B's and C's, right? So sorry, this is A, B's and C's, right? A's will be accelerated, B will be kept at the same time, C's will be decelerated. So there will be debunging, right? That's what you have seen here. So they will travel different depth into the repeller space, and by adjusting the repeller space, what we can do is, right, we can make all these sets A, B and C to arrive the grid gap, right, to arrive the grid gap or the re-entrant resonant cavity at the same time instance, and that time instance should be a positive peak, right? During a positive peak. Why positive peak? Right, why positive peak? I'll tell. When positive peak, I told, right, positive peak, electric field is directed downwards, right? Electric field is directed downwards, and electron, right, all these electrons are moving downwards. Electrons are moving downwards. Electric field is also actually what? Directed downwards. So then what will happen to this, all these electrons? This is the case, right? Electric field is downwards and electrons are also moving downwards. So electrons will be decelerated, which means initially electrons had some kinetic energy, very high kinetic energy. Why? Because it is getting repelled and moving very fast, right, in the downward direction, right? Initially those electrons had kinetic energy, but when they encounter this electric field, what will happen? This, because of this electric field, it will be decelerated, which means kinetic energy, it depends upon actually what? Its velocity, right? Half mv square, right? So velocity is reduced, kinetic energy is reduced, but the total energy has to be, say, conserved, right? By law of conservation of energy. So what will happen is the kinetic energy of this electron will be transferred to electromagnetic energy, right? So at the expense of kinetic energy of these electrons, right? So if these electrons are entering at a positive peak, right? So this is called actually what bunching, right? If these electrons arriving at the same time at a positive peak, that is actually called bunching, right? If the bunching is happening at this positive peak, these electrons will be maximum decelerated and maximum power will be delivered or transferred to electromagnetic energy, right? That is actually the working principle, right? So velocity modulation and bunching. So one more thing which you have to keep in mind, when this VR, it's actually what a variable, right? You will observe in, right, in lab, what you will do is initially you will switch on the power, right? Initially this VR will be kept at maximum negative, right? Initially the VR will be kept at maximum negative. Otherwise what will happen is these electrons which is emanated from cathode, it will directly actually, if the repeller volt potential is slightly positive, right, what will happen is, or less negative compared to this cathode, what will happen is, right, these electrons will come and collide this repeller, right, and it may damage our hardware, right? So we don't want that to happen. So initially, right, we'll keep it at maximum negative, right? Then for all values of VR, we will not get sustained output. So we only for those values of VR which will cause bunching at the positive peak, right? At the positive peak, then only we'll get sustained oscillation. So initially, so then you can actually what slightly reduce the negative potential. Then you will see actually what first mode. Then further when you reduce actually what in between you won't get, then you will get the second mode. So next we are going to discuss about actually what first mode or second mode or what is actually mode. I hope the operation is clear. I mentioned everything in detail, right? The operation principle, actually I have mentioned everything in detail. You can actually what go through this, right? So what can happen is you just consider these electrons A, B and C, where B is a reference electron, right? And suppose this time period of our corresponding to our resonant frequency is capital T, right? So then what happens is this A, B and C, if the repeller voltage is maximum negative, right, repeller voltage is maximum negative, what will happen? These A, B and C cannot enter much into the repeller space. If you see here, right, if this repeller voltage is maximum negative, it cannot dwell much deeper into the repeller space, right? So you can see the case one, right, case one. So in this case, right, say these cases, right, repeller voltage is maximum negative, so these A, B and C cannot dwell much into the repeller space. So what will happen is, if the repeller voltage is maximum negative, so if this is a reference voltage which is actually crossing the grid gap at zero potential, right, and if T naught, right, you can see T naught is the time taken by the repeller, this reference electron to travel to the repeller space and come back, right? So what is T naught? T naught is nothing but what time taken by this reference electron B to travel into the repeller space and come back. So all these should, right, bunch, all these should actually what reach back at the same time, right? So if repeller voltage is maximum, this bunching back can happen at actually what immediate next positive half cycle, right? Immediate next positive half cycle, right? This bunching, if for maximum value of negative voltage, this bunching can happen at immediate next positive half cycle, right? That is actually called the zeroth mode, right? And if you further decrease the negative value of repeller voltage, this A, B and C, it can enter, oh sorry, right, this A, B and C, it can enter more into the repeller space, right, and it will take more time to return back. It will take more time to return back, right? So that is actually called the first mode, right, or one 3/4 mode. So what actually is this 3/4? 3/4 is nothing but what, if you see, right, this one cycle is actually what corresponds to one time period. So if you see the separation bit, the time taken by the electron B to go and return back, right, this is actually in the case of, if it is returning back at the very next positive peak, right, this distance, right, this distance is nothing but what, this distance is nothing but T/4, 3/4 of 1/4 of 3 T/4, 3/4 of a time period, right? So one complete cycle is T, right? So this is actually what 3/4 of time period. So this is actually nothing but the time taken by the reference electron to get into the repeller space and return back, right? So for higher negative values, it will return back fast, right? And if you reduce the repeller voltage, you can actually what? If you reduce the repeller voltage, you will get the next mode, right? If you further reduce, you will get the next mode, right? When I say reducing the negative potential, I mean, right? So what we can write is, right, the time taken T0, right, that is time taken by the reference electron to enter into the repeller space and come back. It can either be actually what? It can be n plus 3/4 times t, right? So n can be 0, 1, 2, etc. So for each value of n, right? So for maximum value of repeller voltage, right, that is n equal to 0, we'll get actually what? The mode 3/4 mode, right? For the next higher value, we'll get 1 3/4 mode. For the next higher value, we'll get 2 3/4 mode, right? So like so on and so forth. So that is actually the mode. I have given the explanation here, right? You can just read it through, right? So please do read through. So those are actually modes. That's what I have mentioned here, right? T naught is n plus 3/4. So the bunched electrons in reflex klystron can deliver maximum power to the cavity at any instance, which corresponds to actually what? Positive peak, right? It should be arriving at any one of the positive peaks, right? If the bunching happens in between, right? If the bunching happens at this instance, it's of no use. It cannot actually what? Transfer kinetic energy to electromagnetic energy. So it can happen at any one of the positive peaks, right? And I've given here, if t is the time period and t naught is the time taken by reference electron, round trip time of reference electron, when I say as far as this grid cavity is concerned, right? So then we can write t naught can take values n plus 3/4 t, right? Where this n, that is n plus 3/4, right, that is actually called mode. So thus by adjusting the repeller voltage for a given dimension of reflex klystron, the bunching can be made to occur at n is equal to n 3/4 positive half cycles, right? Accordingly, the mode of oscillation is named as 3/4, 1 3/4, 2 3/4, etc. For modes n equal to 0, 1, 2, 3. So when I say mode of oscillation, it will be 3/4, 1 3/4, 2 3/4, and the modes will be actually what? 0th mode, first mode, second mode, third mode, respectively, right? So then what happens is, right, if repeller voltage is maximum negative, it will repel these electrons actually what? Maximum. So the velocity of electrons while entering this grid cavity will be maximum, right? So if repeller voltage is maximum negative, right, velocity of electrons will be maximum, kinetic energy will be maximum. So then it will, when it is getting decelerated, it can transfer more energy to the electromagnetic waves. That's what I mentioned here. Lowest order mode, right, that 3/4 occurs when T0 is minimum. That is for maximum value of repeller voltage, right? So in lowest order mode, highest the repeller voltage, maximum acceleration of returning bunched electrons, and power output is also maximum. So for this 3/4 mode, we will get actually what? Maximum power output. So if I say this klystron can give power output from say 10 milliwatts to 2.5 watts. So if I want to get this 2.5 watts, I should set it in lowest order mode. I should set the repeller voltage maximum negative, right? And similarly, if you lower the repeller voltage, we'll get higher order modes, but the problem is the power output will be lower. And of course, the bandwidth also changes. That is what we are going to see next. This is actually called mode curve, right? Mode curve. So don't get scared by seeing this. It's very simple. So there are two diagrams. One is actually what? In one case, this is the power output, right? Power output, and our repeller voltage is 0 here, and repeller voltage is turning negative as I change like this, right? So you can see, right, when repeller voltage is maximum, right, negative maximum, we'll get actually what? Mode 1/3. Here mode 0 is not shown, right? Mode 0 is not shown. Mode 1/3/4 we'll get, right? So for that, you can see the power is actually the most, right? Most power can be delivered by setting the reflex klystron in lower order mode, mode 1 3 by 4. And when you further actually what decrease the repeller voltage, decrease in the sense decrease the negative value, you will get the next mode, mode 2 3 by 4. You can see power is slightly less, and for mode 3 3 by 4 the power is even low, right? So that is, so this is repeller voltage VR. And what you can see is for these range of when you change repeller voltage, for these values of repeller voltage you won't get any sustained output, right? But you can see when you in lab, when you change the repeller voltage at some point, right, you'll see signal start appearing, right, and its magnitude will be maximum, then again it will reduce, right? Then further in between this, no output, right? Why? Because bunging, for these repeller voltages, bunging happens at some other instance, not at positive peak, right? So then again you will get, right, it goes to maximum, right? So now we are interested to know, right, if these are the half power points, if, right, if I want to know what are the frequency contents present, right? So for that we have the second graph, right? So in this axis is actually what frequency, right? Frequency in gigahertz, and this is the resonant frequency, right? This is the resonance frequency. Resonant frequency we can't change, right? By changing the repeller voltage, we cannot change the resonant frequency, right? But if you want to change the resonant frequency, there will be something called actually what a short circuited plunger on the reflex klystron. By adjusting that, you can change the resonant frequency. Otherwise, resonant frequency will be fixed. But you can see when you change the repeller voltage, say from this voltage, right? So this to, when you change the repeller voltage from this to this, you can see actually what frequency is changing, right? And for mode 1 3 by 4, the bandwidth possible is actually what, 10 megahertz. Around the center frequency, only 10 megahertz variation of frequency is allowed, right? That is for higher order modes, the bandwidth is, so for lower order modes, bandwidth is less. But as you increase in mode, as you reduce the repeller voltage, you can see actually what, for mode 2 3 by 4 we are getting a bandwidth of around actually what, 20 megahertz, right? So when you change the repeller voltage from this to this, you can see, sorry, right, when I change the repeller voltage from this to this, you can see frequency also will change, right? So by that is actually by changing the repeller voltage, that is called actually what, electronic tuning, right? By electronically tuning, I can, right, get the bandwidth. So when I say bandwidth, it's actually what, the separation between half power points, right? Separation between half power points, I can get to 20 megahertz. And further in mode 3 3 by 4, I'll get only, I have actually what, even more bandwidth, that is 30 megahertz. By electronically tuning, I can obtain frequencies actually what, around center frequency plus this 30 megahertz around the center frequency, but the power output is minimum, right? So that is actually the mode curve, right? So this is electronic tuning and output mode power of a reflex klystron. Or else if you are asked to draw mode curve, this is what you have to draw. So the idea is very simple, right? As n increases, power decreases, but bandwidth increases, right? Suppose you want to use a klystron to deliver maximum power, right? Then you should tune it to the lower order modes, which means you should keep the repeller voltage negative maximum, repeller voltage negative maximum, right? And if you want more bandwidth, right, some application which needs actually what, the frequency content around FC at a range of plus 30 megahertz, right? Then you should go for the higher order modes, which means repeller voltage is minimum, right? So that is the essence. So I've mentioned everything as bulleted points. Please do read this very carefully, right? I have rushed through a bit. Why? Because it's this material, I think it would be more than sufficient. So I have not discussed any mathematical equations, right? I have not discussed any mathematical equations, right? So why? Because it's not a part of our syllabus. But even to be on safer side, right, I'm giving you the all relevant mathematical equations. Suppose you want to find out what is the RF power output of a reflex klystron. So this is the expression for RF power output, right? PRF is equal to 0.3986 V0 I0 into V0 plus VR by 2FL root of E by 2 mv naught, right? So where E is actually what charge of electrons, M was mass of electrons, V naught is the DC beam voltage, right? So beam and I naught is the beam current, right? VR is the repeller voltage, F is the frequency of oscillation. So if you apply that, you will get the RF power output. You can see RF power output, right? It as VR increases, repeller voltage increases, RF power output will be more, right? And also L is repeller space length in meter, right? If you increase the repeller space length, power output will be less, right? And those things you can see. Then frequency of operation, F megahertz, is given by this expression, right? Just remember this in case, right? In case, right, a problem was asked in exam, at least these two equations, right? We don't have to derive it. So its derivation also, it's very simple. It's not that difficult, right? The basic idea is actually what kinetic energy of electron is being transferred to actually what electromagnetic energy, right? So using that idea, we can derive all these stuffs, right? But it's similar things you might have done in smaller classes, so we don't have to do that, right? So yeah, so that is it about the reflex klystron. So we have seen the construction of reflex klystron, right? Cathode accelerating grid, repeller space, and re-entrant resonant cavity and output magnetic coupling, right? Then we have seen the working. Working is nothing but what working you have to explain with the help of velocity modulation, right? And the round trip time taken by three sets of electrons. A is the electron which is actually what entering the grid cavity when there is a positive peak or the electric field is directed downwards. B, it is the reference electron which enters when there is no field or at V equal to 0. And C is an electron which enters the cavity during a negative peak or electric field is directed upwards. So A will be accelerated, B won't be affected, C will be decelerated. So that is actually called debunging. And by adjusting the repeller voltage, we can make these debunged electrons to bunch back in the resonating cavity at some positive peak, right? So what happens is these electrons will transfer the kinetic energy to electromagnetic energy. That is how, this noise which is initially built, it is getting a positive feedback and you are getting a sustained oscillation, right? What you should keep in mind is for all values of VR, you will not get sustained oscillation. For all values of VR, you will not get sustained oscillation. Only for certain values of VR, which will make these bunching happen at any of the positive peaks, right? And you should be using the terms velocity modulation, bunching, debunging, and all those steps, right? Then we have seen different modes, right? We know, right, by adjusting the repeller voltage, right, we can achieve different modes. And what happens to the output power and bandwidth as mode increases, right? So that is what, so mode curve you should be able to draw. It's nothing but what variation of output power and the bandwidth, right, around the resonant frequency, right? So this is actually by varying the repeller voltage, the fact that by varying the repeller voltage, I can get different frequencies, right? I can get different frequencies. That is actually called electronic tuning, right? But the maximum power will be obtained at actually what the say resonant frequency. At resonant frequency, we'll get maximum power, right? So this is the mode curve, right? And the relevant equations. That's it, right? So we'll wind it up here, right? Any doubts? Any doubts? Any doubt? Please feel free to ask. So this is included for your internal test. So I right. So if I was taking initially, I would have actually taken it using some, say maybe I would have spent minimum 2 hours on this, but no problem, right? This material is already there, right? So in Canvas, in PPT and material, first PPT itself is actually what of reflex klystron, right? This PPT microwave, say microwave and antennas module 1. So in this, right, I have this introduction, frequency bands, microwave system, then it is reflex klystron, right? So you can find it, right? I don't have the soft copy, that's why I didn't make it available. So but this PPT would be more than sufficient, right? Even for your university exam, that would be more than sufficient. Any doubt in this? Any doubt in the working? Did you understand anything? I was just trying to rush through a bit. Something at least that once, if you read it, if you read the PPT, it's not that difficult. It's very easy. You have studied actually what similar things before also, right? So I think that's it. And if you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll just give you the topic for internal test. Right. I'll just list down the topic for internal test. 1 second. Right. I'll just. Right. So the topics are starting with, right. First topic is microwave frequency. Right. Then typical microwave communication system. Right. Then third is say a reflex klystron. Right. Third is reflex klystron. So in reflex klystron, you have a construction, right, working, right, and mode curves, right, mode curves, right. And one more thing, the questions will not be actually what straightforward. You should know the idea, then only you should be able to answer the question. So, but it's just that questions will be twisted a bit. You should be having a clarity of the concept, then only you will be able to answer, right? So then fourth one is actually what the transmission line, right? Transmission line equation and solution, right? Transmission line equation and solution. Then we may have problems on actually what Z0, gamma, alpha, beta, phase velocity, all those stuffs, right? Our problems or derivations, right? So then sixth one is reflection coefficient, right? Reflection coefficient. In this, we have this gamma L is equal to what? ZL minus Z0 divided by ZL plus Z0, right? And gamma D in terms of gamma L, right? Gamma D in terms of gamma L. And I may even ask you to actually what? Plot phases and all those stuffs, right? So then seventh one is transmission coefficient. Transmission coefficient T, right? That is 2ZL divided by ZL plus Z0. This is equal to 1 plus gamma L, and also the power relation, right? Power relation, that is T square, how it is related to gamma square, right? That is, there is a equation which is a consequence of law of conservation of energy, right? That also, that is it, right? So then eighth one is voltage standing wave and voltage standing wave ratio, right? Voltage standing wave and voltage standing wave ratio. So about this, in this again, actually we should be able to define what is voltage standing wave, right? What is voltage standing wave ratio? What is the position of maxima, minima, blah, blah. Many things are there, right? So then ninth one is Smith chart, right? Ninth one is Smith chart. In Smith chart, you have construction of Smith chart, right? Then finding Z max, Z min, position of V max, V min, I max, I min, rho, gamma L, all these things, right? And then impedance matching. Impedance matching. So these are the topics which is there for your first internal test, right? Any doubt in this? So I think only for microwave and antennas you will have like less topics, only one module, right? All other subjects you may have more than one module, right? So no problem, let your first internal, right? So please do write well. Right. And after first internal, what we'll do is I'll be taking up the topics like how we have done now. In today klystron, that entire topic I finished in one day, but I think that would be fine. Right. Any comments or suggestions? Anything? Any queries? And question paper pattern, right? I'll post in Canvas what will be the question paper pattern. Mostly it's for 50 marks, 1.5 hour. So you'll have 6 questions. Out of that, you will have to answer any 5. Right? And questions, right? As if I give straightforward questions, right? There is a tendency that you may, right, copy it as it is online exam. There is a possibility. So because of that, questions will be slightly right, twisted application level. But whatever I'm giving, you should be. I may think it's difficult, but for you people, it will be easy. Right? So that's it. That's it from my side. Any questions? Nothing. If anything, nothing is there, we can wind up. Right. Anything is there? Please feel free to ask. Nothing. Yeah. Shall we wind up the session then? Yeah, thank you so much for joining. We'll wind up the session. So this PPT, it is available in Canvas, right? So those who don't know where it is, I can show that, right? Those who don't know where the PPT is available, I'll just show it. If you know, if you already know, you can leave. No problem, right? Right. So in this PPT and other materials, first PPT itself, it's on actually what Reflex Classroom, right? That PPT and other materials are also there. Right. Okay. Then thank you so much. I wish you all the best. Right. Please do well in exam. We'll see after the exam, right, what happens. Right. All the best. And what about our Mr. Mortasa? And yeah, is he? Will he be writing exam? Anyone is in touch with him?